In a dramatic turn on the global stage, Donald Trump has announced that no US government officials will attend this year's G20 summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. The decision, issued via his social media platform, is steeped in sharp rhetoric and serious accusations, and it marks a sharp escalation in tensions between the United States and South Africa. Trump called the hosting of the G20 in South Africa a total disgrace, arguing that the white Afrikaner minority living there is enduring systematic violence and land seizures. Afrikaners are being killed and slaughtered, and their land and farms are being illegally confiscated, the president wrote. He asserted that US officials will stay away as long as these human rights abuses continue. That announcement rippled into diplomatic corridors with urgency. The summit, scheduled for November 22nd to 23rd, has long been expected to draw heads of state and high-level delegations from the world's major economies. The US has now officially opted to withdraw its presence, declaring a full boycott. At the heart of the matter is Trump's contention that the land reform policies of South Africa have led to the persecution of white farmers, many of whom are Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch, French, and German settlers. He has gone so far as to frame this as a genocide-style scenario, although South African authorities strongly reject such a characterization. From Pretoria's side, the claims are deeply troubling. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, in South Africa has called the narrative false and misleading, stating that the suggestion of targeted persecution of white citizens lacks factual basis. DIRCO emphasized that South Africa remains a constitutional democracy committed to protecting the rights of all citizens, regardless of race. Diplomatic relations between Washington and Pretoria already carry heavy baggage. In early 2025, Trump signed an executive order freezing US aid to South Africa, tying the freeze to concerns about South Africa's Expropriation Act and its implications for Afrikaner landowners. Xinhua News, 5. The story extends further. A US program resettling white South Africans as refugees, based on alleged race-based persecution, stirred still more acrimony, with South African officials rejecting the premise. Against this complex backdrop, the choice to boycott the G20 summit is more than symbolic. The G20 gathering serves as a forum for heads of state and ministers from the world's largest advanced and emerging economies. It's a venue for dialogue on trade, climate, global health, and economic governance. South Africa, having the presidency of the G20 during this cycle, expected full participation, including from the US. Yet Trump's decision positions the matter differently. Participation becomes conditional on his belief that significant human rights concerns are addressed. The US decision reframes the summit's traditional diplomatic logic, turning it into a platform for protest rather than participation. The ripple effects are likely to be broad. On one level, the optics of a US boycott cast a spotlight on South African domestic policy, particularly land reform and crime in rural farming communities. On another level, the decision signals a shift in the US posture toward multilateral summits. Rather than simply attending as a global partner, the US is now treating attendance as reflective of value alignment and perceived justice. For South Africa, the moment is delicate. Hosting the G20 is a rare opportunity for the country to project itself as a key player on the international stage, a bridge between developed and emerging economies, a voice for Africa in global governance. But with the US withdrawing representation, the event risks losing some of its gravitas and diplomatic breadth, while reinforcing narratives of division. Pretoria's rebuke of the allegations underscores the tension between its domestic policy and the external criticism it now receives. Domestically, the president's remarks amplify concerns in South Africa about both violent crime and land reform. South African farmers, white and black alike, live with the reality of farm attacks and crime, but the framing of those attacks as racially targeted and constituting genocide is deeply contested among scholars and officials. One South African historian described Trump's narrative as a fantasy of white genocide, unsupported by credible evidence. Thus a diplomatic drama unfolds, one in which the US is demanding change or else withdrawing, and South Africa is defending its policy and narrative. The global stage of the G20 becomes more than a venue for cooperative dialogue. It becomes a battleground for narratives of justice, for the framing of who is vulnerable, and for how historical legacies of race and land continue to shape modern politics. The United States will instead look ahead. Trump wrote that he looks forward to hosting the 2026 G20 in Miami, Florida. With that forward gaze, the boycott of the 2025 summit becomes both a critique of South Africa's role and a statement of intent for US leadership in future global governance. In the intersection of domestic policy and international diplomacy, this moment stands out. A summit meant to unify begins with a rupture. Land, race, and history converge on the floor of global leadership. And as Johannesburg prepares to host world leaders, the absence of US officials will speak volumes, both about the challenges of the moment and about the contours of power in an era of contested narratives.